first you had a presentation, I guess is what you would call it, for the written evaluations of school safety drills. Are the written evaluations sort of a new thing that's happened here in the district?
Well, what we'll receive this year is more information on the, particularly on active shooter drills. And this, of course, isn't the first year. This is actually the second year that we've gone through those. But there's been more information. We're planning to get a more robust report on those in the future regarding what's working, what's not working, from the perspective of running the drills. Of course, we won't be publishing everything on how we would respond to an active shooter. But the plan that we're using, the ALICE plan, actually is a plan that doesn't lend itself so much to that problem anyways. It actually is asking the staff members and to some degree the students on hand to make a decision in that moment. Is this the right time to evacuate this direction or that direction, to barricade in place, etc. And so it's an active think on your feet kind of a program. So we'll just be getting the general idea of what's working, how we might be able to improve things.
And I know there was mention of something to do with grants. Can you kind of explain the grants that would go along with these school safety?
Yeah, we have a school safety grant that requires us to hold annual school shooter drills. And so that's part of what we're doing now.
Okay.
And I also believe, at least, that it gives the public more confidence that we are planning for these horrendous and hopefully rare events.
Yeah. And I know there was some discussion about some of the some different concerns that parents had with the drills. Was there? It sounded like there wasn't a lot of communication beforehand about drills.
Well, I think that communication should be in multiple measures and longer in advance of the drills, and we'll move forward to do that into the future. We didn't hear a lot of complaints back from parents. That's not the case. We had some concern on the board, though, that some students could be adversely affected, and there were opt-outs in place, but perhaps that could be better communicated and thought out a little more in advance by the families and by staff members, too.
And then where do these reviews of running the shooter situations go to now? The administration will be learning their lessons from this time around. Remember, just today they got the report back from the police, so they weren't ready to really speak on that yet. But they'll be figuring out internally what's working best, what's working not so well, and then figuring out what to report out. And of course, you only want to report out what would be good for the community to know, and not some things that could perhaps make the environment more dangerous. Right. Anything else you'd like to add about the shooting, or I guess about the safety drills that are run in the schools?
Well, we run tornado drills, we run fire drills, and now for this being the second year, we're running active shooter drills. And again, the intention isn't to create a simulation so real that it traumatizes the students, but rather to empower them to understand that in a crisis, they have choices that they can make. And for them to have already thought a little bit through, and again, depending on the age level, they're introduced to this subject at different degrees. But to know that they have agency, that they're empowered to make some important decisions about their own safety as appropriate.
And actually, I should have asked this earlier. What were the drills for this like this year?
Well, for the elementary schools, it was mostly with the students being explained to them, this is an emergency situation, and here's how you would barricade the room, or how you would evacuate. And of course, as we go up into the high schools, there's more information shared, and in that sense it becomes realer. We weren't doing simulated gunfire or anything quite of that nature, but more of a simulation, you might want to call it, in the upper grades, and then more of a discussing of the topic in the lower grades.
Okay. And then you had action moved on a number of different items. I know one that is generally of interest to people is transfer kind of rules. What changed with the K-12 school assignment today, if anything changed?
Nothing really changed significantly. We streamlined the policy so it would be easier to read. And again, the intention is that students will only change schools, ideally in the case that there's an academic program available in one school that's not available in the other. And that, of course, is most easily seen in high school, where we have the International Baccalaureate on the east side and the AP program on the west side, and it may be advantageous for a student to take one versus the other. What we want to avoid is a situation wherein we have some schools with too many students and other schools with not enough students, to where you might even move into a neighborhood and not be able to go to the school across the street. So we want to avoid those kinds of situations. The administration will take it on a case-by-case basis when there's a request to transfer between schools, because we realize that you couldn't possibly enumerate all the possible reasons that you could have for that.
Yep. Anything else you'd like to talk about from the meeting this evening?
Nope, I think we've got a good staff and a good board, and we had a clean bill of health from our outside financial auditors, which has happened every year that I've been on the board, and that makes our job much easier when we know that the money is being handled correctly.